beverage in the winter. Southern Italy are like, why would we eat our wine? But up north they do. And it's actually vin brûlée is French, but it's right there this is from the Piedmont region. And in Italian it translates as burnt wine. Now the wine is not burnt, but that's what the Italians look at. It's like, why are the French, anyway. So because of, borders changing all the time, that's why we get the vin brûlée. And I would just say that my grandmother's family, her parents are from northern Italy. So I'm all off script already, but here I go. What my initial project was, I was going to collect the family recipes in my family. And so I did start doing that. And I sent out emails to them. There had been a collection, but that cousin got ill, so I took it over. And so when I got it, I said, okay. I sent out emails to every cousin that I had. There's many. And so I just said, if you remember anything from our grandparents, any food item, and if you have a recipe that was handed down from your mother, and it's going to be all the moms, send me a little story or a memory or anything that you could relate, with that. So, like good cousins that they are, I started getting all these, things. So I started collecting them, and now I'm looking at them going, oh my God, they're so disparate. There were so many, like, weird things, from bread and butter pickles to date nut bread to ravioli. I'm like, how in the world am I gonna put this thing together? And then I went, they actually kind of fall into holidays. So that's what I did. I started putting them into holidays and came up with, that's why we have Christmas. Came the residency, that came up, and it went, oh my God, that would be so fun to come up here. So here we have it. This is what I'm trying to do, is take a section from the cookbook, which is called the Ammaccapane Family Cookbook. And I'm doing a couple of recipes that have been passed down from my mother and probably from her mother and so on, infinitum. And I'm gonna make them for you, and you get to eat some. So, history, just a little family history, but I should actually start doing something. We might get this shit in there. So, my mom's family, oh no, I wanted to tell you this. In my research, before as I was going through it, I was reading cookbooks, and I've never written a book, so I don't know what I'm doing. So I just started reading other cookbooks and things, and I came across CNN, Stanley Tucci, and it's like, oh, that series was so fun. And then I looked for his cookbook, and he's got a few, and I was reading something. So I just wanted to kind of like read something that he wrote that just really nailed it for me about where I was going with this book. And this is from his book, Taste. Perhaps the most precious heirlooms are family recipes. Like a physical heirloom, they remind us from whom and where we came and give others. In a bite, the story of another people from another place and another time. Yet unlike a lost physical heirlooms, recipes are a part of our history that can be recreated over and over again. The only way they can be lost is if we choose to lose them. So, I'm going to just unearth my family history of Italian immigrants. I dig into the food. So here we go. We're going to start with pecan balls. Oh, thank you. That's great. Some pecan balls. Okay, this is something, well, I'll start talking about my mom, my family. Number one, my mother's side of the family. One moment. Oh, look at that. Bless you. They are, as I said, Italian immigrants, and they had My grandfather was an immigrant from southern Italy, the Campania region, which is a little town southwest, east of Naples. My grandmother, her parents came from northern Italy, which was right up by Lake Como, so in the northern part of Lombardy. So we were really fortunate. We got both cuisines of Italy. So that's, we feel, and we have references to both of them as we go. I'm thinking pecan balls came from up north. That's just, you know, it has little flour. We got butter, you got flour, you got sugar, vanilla, nuts. Easy peasy. So my mom, how am I gonna do? I'm gonna do this. My mom and her sisters. My mom had 2 sisters and a brother, and they were quite prolific. My mom's oldest sister had 6 children. My mom's brother had no children. Her next sister, closest to her, had 5, and she pulled up the rear with 7. Yeah, so I am number 7. And no, I'm not number 7, I'm 1 of 7. And so they had always had been doing big holidays. My grandparents just loved, like, just gathering people, and they provided homes. They had my grandfather built a summer home out in outside of St. Louis. Oh yeah, we're from St. Louis. So we would all gather on big holidays there, and I mean everybody. So I mean, our families are very long. There's a 19-year difference between my sister and my oldest brother. So there couldn't be years that, you know, and you have cousins that you're your age. And, you know, during the war, all 3 sisters were pregnant at the same time. So we got 3 in 44. So it was really kind of interesting. Christmas was a big highlight, and we would start preparing literally the weekend after Thanksgiving. So it was a long, long, joyous kind of slog of doing things. But it was great, and you know, you felt like you were always a part of something. You know, even though you were a little kid, my mom would find things for something for you to do. So after dinner, she'd have a cup of coffee and her cigarette. She said, "Just let me catch my breath." Now I think how ironic that is, Mom. Yeah. And then she would start, and was like, okay. She would start, Linda, start chopping this. Bobby, go get, you know, the trash cans in. Tony, find the nuts. Margie, give the baby a bottle. That would be Mary, you know. So we all had these jobs, and she would literally just start orchestrating us. So this was really special for us. And I thought it was great fun. I was that one weird kid that always wanted to go to the grocery store. I would hang out in the kitchen with her. I would, you know, we would talk. And I always felt, you know, like my mom and I had a special relationship. And she had a special relationship with each one of us. I mean, it was kind of wonderful to never be compared to a sibling or anything else. It was kind of nice. She saw you for who you were. So you can see, as a kid, making pecan balls was really great fun. And, you know, and we would watch her do this, you know, very similar to making meatballs, which she didn't make too often either, because it's too labor intensive and took too long. And that would be a special meal if we had spaghetti and meatballs. We had spaghetti a lot, a lot. Loved it. But the meatball part was, you know, took extra time, and she didn't have a lot of it. So anyway, Christmas would come, and she made the same things almost every year, which to us we didn't care because it was still special. And she would make chocolate chips and oatmeals, the pecan balls, and she made one bread. It was a date nut bread. It's a fruit bread that I cannot get enough of. And so we would, you know, those recipes like the oatmeals and so forth, they weren't, you know, they weren't any big deal. They were right off the box. She added nuts, you know. But her oatmeals, oh, this is my typical my mom. The oatmeals, she would cut do you remember candied like cherries? They had green ones and red ones, so she would cut those and put them on top. She said, because, you know, it's a Christmas plate. You need to have red and green on a Christmas plate. You know, it's pretty. Yeah, so that was my mom. I gotta tell you the pecan story. Okay, yeah, don't forget the pecan story. Now, we weren't always, you know, there with her making the pecan balls. Sometimes, you know, it was late, get to bed, get those kids down so she could think. And one night, she stayed in the kitchen, exhausted as always, and it's Christmas, that's kind of de rigueur. But she said she needed to make one more batch of pecan balls. It's like, oh, you know, we all went to bed. We wake up the next morning, we walk into the kitchen, and there's this tray. And it's got this kind of beige, bumpy, weird looking thing going on. It's like, what the hell is that? You know, we're talking about, you know, we're like 8 years old. My brother's like 4, you know, and we're like, what is that? What is that? You know, we're looking at it. My older brother is like, I don't know. So Mom finally walks into the kitchen. It's like, Mom, what is this? What did you make? What is it? And she just, like in a daze, she comes out and she looks at it, oh, and she just starts laughing. I forgot the flour. Put the whole thing in. I don't know how she even got it. So it looked like just this sheet of like pecan brittle or something. And we went, candy, okay. So out the door, we grabbed some, cracked it up, grabbed some, took it to school, you know, walking to school, we're eating this pecan candy. It's like, oh yeah, Mom's really tired, we know that, right? I really appreciate all that she passed down in terms of my grandfather's history. And I knew more about my grandfather, but I think I was older too and had more conversations with him. My grandmother died when I was 4. So I have a few memories of her and her, she was just this warm, soft pillow that you could just fall into and hug, and which she did for me once when I thought I got left and I had gotten out of the car and was told to stay, but of course I didn't. And I walked in the kitchen and I thought my mom wasn't there, and I started weeping and crying, and this, you know, this Nana just, come on, bambina, you know. So that's what I'm gonna pursue a little bit more with a genealogist here, is trying to retrace her roots and her family, where they came from and why did they come over. You know, what, you know, this was, I think they came to the U.S. in like 1880. And my grandmother was born in St. Louis in 1889. Both my grandparents were born in 89. I think that's so remarkable, same year. I'll take gluten. This is, gluten, yeah, gluten, thank you. But I still have to do this. This is the hardest part, timing, because timing is everything. Bob Dolan lived 2 doors down from me. And for anybody who's around in the New York area, it's Tim Dolan's dad, Cardinal Dolan's dad. So yeah, he grew up, yeah, Tim used to practice being a priest down the block. We were his parishioners, yeah. But Bob Dolan worked, we were in St. Louis, and he worked for McDonnell Douglas. And I think it was in 68, I can't be exactly sure. It was in the 60s, you know, 60s. It was a time ago. Anyway, he was working for McDonnell Douglas, and so he came over like, I think it was the Christmas night, and we're all sitting around. We had a great big round oak table, dining room table, a kitchen table, and we're all sitting around, and on our table we had the traditional Christmas things on there, which is plates of cookies, the bread, shelled nuts. We had a nut, you know, a specific nut bowl with crackers and everything, and a bowl of tangerines, because that's what we would get in our stockings, was a tangerine nut, hard candy that always stuck to the bottom in the toe and you're trying to get it out. Yeah, and so very well. So anyway, Bob comes over and we're talking, and my mom asked him, because she was always very fascinated about space and, you know, what's happening in the world, basically. And so he starts to try to explain to her what's physically happening between NASA and the Sputnik, or not Sputnik, but the, you know, shuttle going up and around. And he couldn't figure out how to do it. So he said, oh, okay. So he kind of cleared space of all the nutshells that were all over the table. So here's this white tablecloth. So he starts taking cookies. And of course the pecan ball was the moon. And then he had the chocolate chip was NASA. And then he took the two other ones, and he had mapping it out on the kitchen table, explaining what was happening, where it was going around. I'm like, I just thought that was hysterical as a kid. No, never mind. So anyway, I was going off of that. We're going to make this. And we need another mixer. Okay. So, I got to check my notes. Where was I going for after that? I did tell you about those. I have no idea. So I'm going to just sit here and cook for a while and put this together, and you know, it'll come to me. What am I making? This is a date nut bread. And, oh, yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Date nut bread. Now, some of you may remember that certain food items were not always accessible year-round, that they were seasonal, and dates were one of them. Just like the tangerines, where I lived, you know, in Missouri, we only saw them then, like persimmons. You know, that was the only time we would have them in the grocery store. And dates was also one of those things. And in my family, my cousins, oh, that's the thing. My cousins, they would have, their mothers would be making the same things also. And dates were like so exotic to us. They were like something from the Far East, or you know, something we just not something you had. Every once in a while, we might see. My dad was a traveling salesman, and some of his clients would give us like a dried fruit platter, which I thought was so exotic. You know, it's like, wow, where did this come from, Dad? Which was really, really very nice. But yeah, dates were one of these things, and dates were so popular in the Ammaccapane family. My Aunt Marie, my mom's sister, she would make date sticks, which was sort of like, it was a cookie, but they were in the shape of fingers. And it was sort of like date nut bread, but yet not, because they were very kind of flat and dense. And they got, not like they weren't sweet enough, but they would be, they had all of this stuff, like sugar, flour, cinnamon, you know, vanilla. But she would then roll them in sugar, powdered sugar. So, and now, you're probably wondering, not a very normal thing to bake in. Well, this isn't a normal shop here. So anyway, a little history first is that the colonists actually first started baking their bread in cans because they didn't have ovens. And what they would do, they would put, you know, they put it in, and their bread was, they used what they could find, which was rye and wheat. So they first started with that, and then started adding molasses. But they would put them in the cans and put it over the fire and steam it. So that's how they got it. A little more history. There's a company called B&M. Some of you might remember that. They, in the 20s and 30s, they would make Boston brown bread, and that would last 2 years if you didn't open the can. I mean, but yeah, you bought it as a can. I mean, yeah. And I think you can still find that. I think you still can find that today. So what's in here is dates. You know, you saw eggs, you saw there was sugar, cinnamon, a little bit of salt, flour, butter, you know, just, what? Drop the ring. Oh, what else is no big? Normally when we were, you know, at home and everybody was there, well, you know, as all good things do come to pass, kids leave and move away, and we all did at some point. We all left St. Louis, and so at Christmas, my parents had been divorced, of course, by this time, and well, you don't know that, so I don't know why I'm saying of course. But she just didn't have a lot of money, but she really, you know, embraced the holiday. She could not go through Christmas and not give her kids something. She had to find something. And so she started making these Christmas packages for us. And, you know, we would get different things. We would get the pecan balls, we would get the chocolate chips, we would get, I'm trying to make these a little even. So in these packages, you know, we would find the traditional candy and stuff, and then she started using cans for the date night bread. And so it would come out, you know, in these little cylinders, and there it is. And she would, you know, wrap it up in foil to, you know, preserve it and everything. And then she would wrap it in Christmas paper and put little things like it looked like a Christmas cracker, you know, everything. So cute, so damn cute. The woman was nothing but cute, I'll tell you. If you want to have a little cream cheese on it, because we would have this for breakfast. It would be our Christmas bread, so in the morning, after it was baked, of course, it's plugged in. After it was baked, then you can toast it, and we put it in the toaster, and it come out, and now it's nice and warm, because we kept it in the refrigerator, it'd be nice and warm, and we'd put on either butter, or then cream cheese. Cream cheese was the thing. So, you know what, does anybody want to try it with, is this gluten-free? Right, regular, and regular. Okay, would anyone like to try it with cream cheese?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. All right, come and get it.
Yeah, she's good.
Oh, okay. Oh, Ken hasn't gotten his yet. You're just the delivery system. Cream cheese too? Cream cheese regular? Cream cheese?
Bigger cans.
Right, okay, I just have to say this. Being here is like being in a little slice of heaven. I'll tell you. Getting to be with other artists of different fields and backgrounds and stories and, you know, just greatness. They were so gracious, they would come down, you know, even though they couldn't come in the kitchen, I would be making something, but I would have people come and test for me. So, not like I was trying to ingratiate myself with people. Lauren was big one, Ben's another big one, RDI was another one, you know, came in. My vin brulee testers, my, you know, what would you like? It's lighter, it's not as heavy, it's much more easy. I mean, poor Jane, as my dietary issues continue to travel around the world, it seems like, she's now becoming gluten-free. I mean, she will eat something, but she's noticing that it's actually easier to digest. So, basically, this has been a most joyful, fun, enlightening, inspiring project that I've ever, I don't even know how it came about, but it just seems like it was the right time. I'm gonna cry. And being here has made it, just put me over the top. So, I did write a little something because I know I can't remember it. I can't remember to set a timer, you know, it's like, Anyway, in continuing to make family recipes, I feel like I'm honoring my Italian heritage of my grandparents, Nana and Popno, and those who came before me. And in so doing, collecting the recipes for the descendants who are going to come after me. I feel like I'm a conduit from the past to the present to the next generation. And because we all share the same DNA passed down from Pietro and Marie Ammaccapane, it is the connective tissue that I love and I cherish. So my book, I'm just going to tell you what my book is. Thank you. So my book, my family cookbook, the Ammaccapane Family Cookbook, is my legacy to the next generation, to remind them who we are and where we come from. Thank you.